What should organisations stop asking of middle managers and start providing instead?
In every organization, there's one group holding the whole operation together. Not the top, not the bottom, the middle. Today, three of the sharpest minds in middle management step up to the mic. Sally Foley-Lewis, Jeff Siegel, and Lisa Robin Wood. Each brings a different lens, one shared mission. Decode what it really takes to lead from the middle with confidence, clarity, and impact. Same questions, three perspectives. Get ready for insight that cuts through the noise and goes straight to the operational heartbeat of your organization. Let's dive in.
What I would like organisations to stop doing is asking middle managers to be superheroes. Stop being everything to everyone, being calm under pressure. I mean, don't lose your bottle, but being calm under pressure all the time. Emotions are valid and we're allowed to have those emotions and we're allowed to explain our emotions. Not necessarily express them the way we might want to sometimes, but we're allowed to have emotions. Stop being resilient at all cost, because that's not leadership, that's load shifting. What middle managers actually need is not more resilience training or motivational posters. They need better systems, clarity of their role, clear decision rights, the authority to make decisions and understand what those rights are. Aligned priorities, development that focuses on influence and not just performance. And we need to stop asking middle managers to manage ambiguity on their own in silos. And we need to start providing context, direction, and permission to decide. We've got to stop expecting them to absorb organisational stress, and we need to start fixing the structures that actually create that stress. Middle managers are not the problem layer. They just simply are, and if led well, they're a great leverage layer. When organisations invest properly in the middle, execution improves, engagement rises, leadership actually shows up where the work happens. And this is not about the theory at all. It's simply how organisations can really scale without breaking their people.
Sally gave such a great answer to this question that I was almost at a loss for words. But thanks, Sally, for really pointing out like what we keep asking middle managers to be superheroes, to do everything without the right clarity and of what their roles are, and without the right development for really understanding how to do all of those roles that they need to take on. And so I think that, I wholeheartedly agree with this idea that we need to stop asking middle managers to do basically what senior middle managers often had to do in their career, which was to just figure it out on their own. Let's actually sort of codify what makes a manager effective, what is going to help these middle folks become great, and then let's design their training, their development, or whatever around creating those skills. And I know we like to call them soft skills, but I always say they're the hardest skills that people have to learn. It's not about training people how to do the functional part of their job, but actually spending some time training people on how to do these sort of less clear parts of their job, how to manage people, how to manage their relationships with their manager, how to manage relationships with all these people around them. We need to stop asking them to do it on their own. We need to help them, not by telling them what to do or micromanaging them, but by coaching them, by giving them, sort of new tools in their toolkit, by sort of helping them move past the thinking of themselves as doers, which they did in their previous roles, and thinking of themselves as sort of having moved beyond that to something more complex, a doer, leader, and influencer. The other thing I want to add to this, though, is we need to stop asking the middle managers to be exactly like their boss, right? Everybody leads in different styles, and everybody has to learns at different paces and learns in different ways and so forth. And that doesn't mean that they are bad, that they aren't good at their job. It just means that they are going to do it differently than, say, we might do it if from a senior leader perspective. And we need to give people the latitude to sort of figure these things out, coach them through this stuff, but suggest that, hey, like, what you really need is a toolkit, a broad set of ways of dealing with different problems. And then we need to celebrate for people, when people find different ways of solving problems than the way we would solve those problems. So for me, I think stop asking people to do it on their own without the training, without the support, and also stop asking them to do it in a certain way that, say, works for us, and make sure we do it in a way that works for them.
I think it's too often expected that if you've reached the position of a middle management, you are self-sufficient, that you are the finished article, that you are now capable of pure self-leadership and require no ongoing support. And I think that's just a really short-sighted approach to, in general, how we support people in organisations, but also specifically to this subset of leadership. And how we treat people who are in the middle, because as this whole series is articulated, being in the middle is a complex space. It requires a very variable, quite vast set of skills to be successful in it, and that needs ongoing support and management. I think that's true of leaders at all levels. So I think really what needs to shift here is moving away from the expectation on middle management to constantly to be delivering. I talk so much about how key it is for leaders to have the space to think, and actually middle managers, I think, have some of the most restricted space in their working lives, in their day-to-day. Expected to implement strategy, manage performance, support well-being, drive change, inform strategy, solve problems, usually at very high speed. And although that can be true, I think it's being mindful of how to still support middle managers to have time for themselves and to really encourage that, so that they can reflect, they can prioritise, they can actually make the right decisions. It's not a luxury to have space. I think it is a critical necessity for any senior leader. I think the second thing is stop unclear or conflicting, shifting priorities. I think that's probably true in all organisations, but I think a middle manager really has to juggle a lot of that. So, I think it's including middle managers in decision making. It's including them in setting the pace of work. It's being consistent in that approach, and then supporting the decision to stand and for it to be clear. So really clear intention, honest context, realistic expectations. That's what really enables middle managers to lead with confidence rather than constant uncertainty and having to juggle. And then the final thing, I think, is moving away from just expecting resilience from middle management in complete isolation with no support. So I think middle managers are often told to be resilient, adaptable, flexible, strong for others, and yet are given very limited mentoring, coaching, ongoing development, feedback even, or even just a safe space to reduce that pressure on themselves, or even to process it. So, I think if organisations really value this group of individuals, then actually demonstrate that in how you invest in them, and the culture in middle management that you create. So stop asking middle managers to carry everything alone and start giving them space, clarity and support. And I think when organisations really make that shift, that's when they don't just cope. That's when they really thrive, and you start to get the real value and return from those in middle manager positions.
You've just heard from 3 leaders who have dedicated their careers to strengthening the heartbeat of every organization, the middle. Sally Foley-Lewis has spent over 20 years in the trenches and the boardroom, working with more than 20,000 managers across industries and continents. She's a global award-winning speaker, author, and educator who equips managers to be confident, capable, and courageous, and delivers the tools that lift performance fast. Jeff Siegel brings more than 2 decades across global food, grocery, and restaurant giants and a mission to build better workplaces from the inside out. He's a coach, author of The Middle Matters, helping leaders at every level increase their impact. From Cape Town, Lisa Robin Wood is the middle manager coach. Her own leap into senior middle management sparked the confidence crisis that transformed her life and career. Today, she helps managers rebuild their confidence, sharpen their self-awareness, and thrive through GRIP Coaching's practical, high-impact development programs. 3 experts, 1 shared passion, helping middle managers succeed where it matters most. Stay connected, keep developing, and keep leading from the middle.